What's up YouTube? Today we're going to take a look at one of the coolest cards in Marvel Snap, which is Destroyer. And look at some of the best decks that you can build around him. But first of all, let's not get ahead of ourselves. What if Destroyer is the very first Series 3 card that you unlock? This deck is a great way to put him to use right away. Shout out to Howling Minds for the deck building here. This is a Destroy package centered deck. Either wants to protect its own units from the Destroyer on reveal effect with Armor or Professor X protecting our locations, or with silencing the Destroyer effect with Cosmo so that the on reveal doesn't trigger at all. However, sometimes we do want some of our cards to get destroyed, so we can leave a Bucky Barnes out in the open or something like Nova to get the benefits and buffs and make ourselves even stronger. The general playstyle of this deck is to only play for 2 locations. That also buffs up our warpath and makes it easier to protect one location with Armor or Professor X. Fill that up completely, and the other one is usually going to be won by Destroyer's sheer power amount, side by side with a Cosmo or a Bucky Barnes popping out a Winter Soldier. This deck naturally progresses into one of the most played and highest win rate archetypes in Marvel Snap, and that is Ongoing Spectrum paired with Destroyer. The playstyle is quite similar to the Series 2 deck that I just showcased, but this list has a lot of extra flexibility in form of Spectrum as an alternative finisher. If we cannot protect our lanes, or if we want to play for all 3 locations, Spectrum can spread out power very nicely across them. And while Destroyer is the only essential Series 3 card here, it is also nice to have Daredevil and Mojo in this deck. Mojo mostly allows us to double down on that one location that we want to fill up, makes it much more likely that we win this. And Daredevil makes the use of Claw and especially Professor X much easier and allows us a much more consistent late game with this deck. The only downside of this deck is that it is so common that people really already know its patterns and playstyles and know how to play against it, know what to expect, so it can be hard to win a lot of cubes off of our opponents. To counteract this effect, there's another version of the same deck core, but it is a lot more disguised and hidden. We also play a few more disruptive cards to bug our opponent. Goose makes him unable to play big stuff into a certain lane. Sandman is a true combo breaker and very good against all of the Sarah and Silver Surfer decks that are running around. To follow up Sandman, Red Skull is a very interesting tech choice as well, because our opponent cannot fill up the lane anymore quite easily after we have played Red Skull somewhere. So I hope this just shows how flexible you can be when building this archetype. Also, if you want to see it in action, I did feature this in a full-length video, the first version of the deck that I showed earlier on. You can see it right here. But I also have one more important Destroyer archetype that I want to show you, and that is a Galactus Electro deck. This deck has a very unique playstyle, basically trying to sacrifice the early game but ramping up with Electro a wave to get an early Galactus into a location where you have not played cards yet. Ideally that destroys a bunch of stuff and your knull is gonna be pretty darn big, and all of the destruction also discounts death, so we can play her quite cheaply. Usually we can also annoy our opponent by playing Dr. Octopus into that last location that is left and clogging them up immediately, then follow up with Shang-Chi on the final turn to destroy their big stuff. Once we have control over a game in that way, it's usually already over. There's not much our opponent can do. But Destroyer enables us to have a good alternate game plan here if the Galactus plan does not work out. It's also a great way to get rid of the Electro debuff that is off the ongoing effect. It is also a great way to make our knull stronger. So Destroyer adds a lot of flexibility to this deck. Unfortunately, I couldn't play it yet. I don't have all of the cards, but a lot of people and tier lists do consider this a high tier 2 deck. So while this might look a bit meany at first, it can really catch our opponents off guard and make us win a lot of cubes if they think they're ahead early on and just get too cocky with snapping. So these are the most common and strongest Destroyer decks that I could think of. If you think I really missed something important, let me know in the comments below. Also, if the video was helpful to you and you want to see more, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel. I will be putting out more of these videos, and I hope to see you again another time.